My name is Barbara, and I was just 5 when my sister Milena was born. I remember my parents bringing her home from the hospital, this tiny bundle wrapped in a pink blanket. "Barbara," my mom said, "you're a big sister now. You need to help us take care of Milena." Those words would become the theme of my childhood. Our house was modest but comfortable, located in a quiet suburban neighborhood where everyone knew each other. My parents both worked regular jobs, dad as an accountant and mom as a secretary. They weren't wealthy, but we had enough. Or at least, that's what I thought until I realized money worked differently for Milena and me. As the years passed, the differences in how my parents treated us became more apparent. When I was 10 and Milena was 5, I got in trouble for breaking a plate while doing the dishes. My punishment? No TV for a week and extra chores. The very next day, Milena knocked over Mom's favorite vase while running through the house. "She's just a little girl," Mom said, sweeping up the pieces. "She doesn't know any better." This pattern continued throughout our childhood. I had to earn my allowance by doing chores, while Milena got pocket money just for existing. If I wanted new clothes, I had to wait for special occasions, but Milena got new dresses whenever she pointed at them in store windows. My daily routine became an endless cycle of responsibility. Wake up early to help Milena get ready for school. Walk her to her elementary school before heading to my middle school. Rush back after my classes to pick her up. Help her with homework. Make sure she had her snack. Keep her entertained. It was a Wednesday in May when everything changed. The day started like any other. I got up early, made sure Milena had her lunch packed, and headed to school. I had a math test that day, but my mind kept drifting to the summer camp brochure tucked in my backpack. I'd been saving my allowance and doing extra chores all year to earn my spot at the prestigious art camp. My paintings had even earned me a partial scholarship. Just 6 more weeks, and I'd be there. "Don't forget to pick up your sister at 3:15, Mom texted me during lunch. As if I could forget, I'd been doing it for years. The math test ran late, but I still sprinted to Milena's school, arriving at 3:25. The schoolyard was empty. My heart started racing as I checked every classroom, the playground, and even the bathrooms. No Milena. "Have you seen my sister?" I asked the janitor, who was mopping the hallway. "The one in the blue backpack?" "She left with some friends right after the bell." My hands shook as I dialed Milena's number. Straight to voicemail. I tried again, and again, nothing. Maybe she went to Katie's house, I thought, remembering her best friend. I ran the 6 blocks to Katie's, my backpack thumping against my spine. Katie's mom answered the door. "Sorry, honey, haven't seen her today." For the next 5 hours, I searched everywhere. The mall where she liked to window shop. The ice cream parlor where she always begged me to take her. The park where she hung out with her friends. My phone battery was dying, and my feet were blistered, but I couldn't stop. If anything happened to her. At 8:45 p.m., I dragged myself home, preparing to face my parents' worry and anger. But when I opened the door, I found Milena sitting at the kitchen table, calmly eating pizza with Mom and Dad. "Where have you been?" Mom demanded, her face red with anger. "We'd been worried sick." "Me?" I stared at them in disbelief. "I've been looking for her everywhere." "She wasn't at school, and her phone was off." "That's not true," Milena interrupted, tears welling up in her eyes. "I waited for hours after school, but Barbara never came. My phone died, and I didn't know what to do. I went to my friend's house to call you, but no one answered. Then I got lost trying to find my way home." "You little," I started, but Dad cut me off. "We don't want to hear your excuses, Barbara. Your sister could have been hurt. She ended up on the other side of town because of your irresponsibility." "But I was there. The janitor saw her leave with friends right after school." "Enough," Mom slammed her hand on the table. "Go to your room, and give me your phone. And you can forget about summer camp." "What? No. I've been saving all year. I got a scholarship. Should have thought about that before abandoning your sister. Maybe this will teach you about responsibility. I looked at Milena. She was hiding a smirk behind her pizza slice, and in that moment, something inside me broke. All these years of reading her bedtime stories, buying her treats with my allowance, helping her with homework, none of it mattered. She wasn't my sister. She was just someone who happened to live in the same house. That night, I packed away all the games we used to play together. I took down the drawings she'd made for me. I threw out the half-eaten bag of her favorite candy I kept in my desk. From now on, Milena was just another person who lived in our house. Nothing more. Through middle school and high school, I threw myself into my studies. I knew my parents had a college fund. They'd mentioned it at every family gathering, proudly telling relatives how they'd been saving since we were born to give both their daughters a good education. I'd overheard the amount once when Mom was talking on the phone, enough to cover 4 years at a state university for each of us. During my junior year, I stayed up countless nights working on scholarship applications. My SAT scores were nearly perfect, my grades were all A's, and I had glowing recommendations from my teachers. When the acceptance letters started coming in, I could hardly believe it. I'd received a full scholarship to my top choice university. One evening, I decided to tell my parents the news. "Mom, Dad, I got some good news," I said, holding the scholarship letter. "I got a full ride to college. Tuition, room, and board, everything's covered." Mom looked up from her phone. "That's nice, honey." "So, I was thinking," I continued, my heart racing with hope, "since you won't need to spend the college money you saved for me, maybe I could use it for something else?" I've been researching, and it would be enough for a down payment on a small apartment, or maybe even to start a small business after graduation. The silence that followed was deafening. Dad muted the TV. "What college money?" Mom asked, her voice sharp. "The money you've been saving? For our education?" Dad cleared his throat. "Barbara, that's our money. We saved it, we decide how to spend it." "But you always said it was for our college education," I protested. "Since I got a scholarship." "We'll be using that money for Milena's education," Mom interrupted. "College is getting more expensive every year, and your sister might need extra support." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So because I worked hard and got a scholarship, I don't get anything? How is that fair?" "Life isn't fair," Dad snapped. "And it's not your money to claim." End of discussion. I stormed up to my room, tears of anger burning in my eyes. The next few weeks were unbearable. My parents acted as if nothing had happened, talking about graduation preparations and dorm shopping as if they hadn't just crushed my hopes. When I tried to bring up the subject again, they simply walked away or changed the topic. As I packed my bags for college that summer, I realized something. I was actually lucky. Lucky that I'd worked so hard for that scholarship. Lucky that I hadn't counted on them for my education. Because now I knew the truth, in this family, I could only count on myself. The day I left for college, I loaded my 2 suitcases into an Uber while my family slept upstairs. No tearful goodbyes, no family photos on the front porch, no care package of home-baked cookies. Just the quiet click of the front door closing behind me. My first week on campus, I landed a job at the university coffee shop. The hours were brutal, 5 a.m. openings before classes and weekend shifts while other students were out partying, but it meant I could buy my own textbooks and not worry about running out of toothpaste. The only contact I maintained with my family was perfunctory, short voice messages on birthdays and holidays. "Happy birthday, Mom. Hope you have a great day. Merry Christmas, everyone. Stay warm." They rarely responded, and when they did, it was equally brief. "Thanks, sweetie. Take care." One night, during a bout of insomnia, I found myself scrolling through Mom's Facebook page. There they were, dozens of photos of family moments I hadn't known about. Milena, now 14, at her dance recitals in sparkly costumes. Her elaborate birthday party with a hired DJ and professional decorations. Family dinners with aunts, uncles, and cousins where she was clearly the center of attention. Photos of her winning a school talent show, posing with her friends at the mall, her first day of ninth grade. No mention that I was about to graduate summa cum laude from a top university. No photos of my empty chair at holiday gatherings. It was as if I'd been digitally erased from the family narrative. After graduation, my friend Jessica suggested we rent an apartment together in Seattle. The tech scene is booming there, she said. We could both get good jobs. The thought of returning to Minnesota hadn't even crossed my mind. I accepted a position at a mid-sized marketing firm, starting in their entry-level program. The pay wasn't great, but it was enough for my half of the rent in our small 2-bedroom apartment. I threw myself into work, staying late to learn new skills, volunteering for challenging projects. Soon, I was making enough to afford my own place, a tiny studio, but it was mine, every square foot paid for by my own hard work. After 3 years at the marketing firm, I hit a ceiling. Despite my dedication and consistent performance, the company's structure meant I'd need to wait years for any significant advancement. One evening, while updating my LinkedIn profile, I received a message from a recruiter at Tech Dynamics, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in Seattle. "Your profile caught my attention," she wrote. "Would you be interested in discussing an opportunity with us?" The interview process was intense, 5 rounds of meetings, a presentation, and a strategy proposal. But at 27, I felt ready for the challenge. When the offer came, it was nearly double my current salary, with stock options and bonuses that made my head spin. My career took off like a rocket. Within 2 years, I was leading my own team. My investment decisions paid off, and soon I found myself walking into a Mercedes dealership, signing papers for a car I'd only dreamed about in college. A few months later, I was approved for a mortgage on a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment in one of Seattle's most desirable neighborhoods. Life was good, peaceful. Until my phone rang one November evening. "Barbara?" My mother's voice sounded strange, almost hesitant. "How are you?" I nearly dropped my wine glass. We hadn't spoken beyond holiday messages in years. "I'm fine," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "Is everything okay?" Yes. We haven't seen you in so long. Would you consider coming home for Christmas this year?" 3 weeks later, I pulled up to my parents' house in my new Mercedes. Inside, I found some things hadn't changed at all. Milena, now 24 and a fresh college graduate, was still living at home. She sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone while Mom fussed over the dinner table and Dad pretended to be absorbed in a newspaper. "Barbara," Mom hugged me awkwardly. "We've missed you so much." Dad nodded from behind his paper. "You look, well." The dinner was a strange dance of forced politeness and careful small talk. Milena barely spoke, but I caught her studying me throughout the meal. Finally, she broke her silence. "You've gained weight," she said, with that familiar smirk. "I guess making all that money means you can eat whatever you want now." I looked at her, then at my plate of Mom's Christmas roast, and smiled. "Actually, I just have a peaceful life now. It's amazing how good life can be when nobody's around to bother you." The silence that followed was sweeter than any Christmas dessert. After dinner, Mom asked me to stay behind while Dad and Milena cleared the table. She led me to the old living room sofa, the same one where they'd told me my college fund wasn't really mine. "Barbara, honey," she began, her voice taking on that soft tone I remembered from childhood, the one she used when she wanted something. "I need to talk to you about something important." She looked older than I remembered, more tired. Her hands fidgeted with the edge of her sweater as she spoke. "Your father retired last spring," she said. "His health isn't what it used to be. The medication costs are, well, they're more than we expected. And I had to cut back to part-time at work to take care of him." I sat silently, watching her gather her thoughts. "The house needs work too," she continued, gesturing at the water stains on the ceiling. "The roof leaks, the furnace is ancient, and we can barely keep up with the basic repairs. We're struggling, Barbara. Then came the words I'd been waiting for, we've seen how well you're doing. That beautiful car outside, your success, we're so proud of you. We were wondering if maybe you could help us out a little? I looked around the house where I'd grown up, at the fading wallpaper and worn carpet. Despite everything, I couldn't bear the thought of my parents struggling. I'll send you $1,500 a month, I heard myself say. Mom's eyes lit up. She threw her arms around me, hugging me for the second time that night. Oh, Barbara, thank you, sweetheart. This means so much to us. True to my word, I set up the monthly transfers as soon as I got back to Seattle. Every month, like clockwork, $1,500 went to my parents' account. I told myself it was for Dad's medical bills and house repairs. I didn't ask for receipts or documentation, I was too busy with work to micromanage how they spent it. But occasionally, during my rare free moments, I'd check Milena's Facebook page. There she was at the new fusion restaurant downtown, posting photos of elaborate sushi platters. Another post showed her shopping bags from designer boutiques. She posed in new outfits in every photo, expensive ones, judging by the brands. All while supposedly living at home with our struggling parents. Maybe she got a job, I thought, but her posts were all during working hours. Lunch at trendy cafes on Tuesday afternoons. Shopping sprees on Thursday mornings. Spa days on Mondays. Something didn't add up, but I was too wrapped up in my own career to investigate. My team was expanding, we had major projects launching, and I was up for another promotion. The call came during a crucial meeting with my team. Mom never called during work hours, our only communication had been through the monthly bank transfer notifications for the past year. I excused myself and left the conference room. Barbara, we need your help, my mother said without preamble, her voice carrying an urgency I hadn't heard since childhood. We need $50,000. It's an emergency. Mom, wait, but she had already hung up, leaving me staring at my phone in confusion and fear. My mind immediately went to my father. His health had been declining, that's why I'd been sending money home every month. Was he in the hospital? Did he need emergency surgery? The medical system could be ruthless with its costs. I remembered how weak he'd looked at Christmas. I walked back into the conference room, gathering my things. I'm sorry, everyone. I have a family emergency. Sarah, can you take over? Within an hour, I had canceled my meetings for the week and booked the first flight to Minnesota. The entire trip from Seattle, I kept imagining worst-case scenarios, Dad in intensive care, medical procedures they couldn't afford, desperate choices they had to make. I'd seen the headlines about healthcare costs bankrupting families. The rental car's GPS indicated I was still 20 minutes from my parents' house when I noticed something odd. All the lights were on in their house, I could see it from the end of the street. Not the scene I'd expect if there was a medical emergency. Usually, during a crisis, people forgot about things like turning on lights. I barely had time to knock before the door swung open. Mom's face fell when she saw me, as if I was a door-to-door salesman rather than her daughter who'd flown across the country for an emergency. Barbara? What are you doing here? Behind her, I could see Dad sitting in his armchair, looking perfectly healthy and reading a magazine. Milena was pacing in the living room, typing frantically on her phone. You didn't have to come, Mom said, reluctantly letting me in. We just needed you to send the money. The house smelled of coffee and pastries, definitely not the atmosphere of a family crisis. What's going on? I looked around the room, taking in the scattered bridal magazines on the coffee table I hadn't noticed initially. Dad, are you okay? He's fine, Mom snapped, shooting a warning look at Milena. Everyone's fine. You really didn't need to come all this way. That's when Milena stepped forward, practically bouncing with excitement. She thrust her left hand in my face, a massive diamond ring catching the light. It had to be at least 2 carats, probably more than her boyfriend could afford on his entry-level salary. I'm getting married, she squealed. And we need the money for the wedding. $50,000 should cover the basics. I stood there, stunned, my carry-on bag still in my hand. The emergency that had made me cancel a week of important meetings, book a last-minute flight, and worry myself sick, was a wedding? Well, we need to book the venue soon, Mom explained, as if this made perfect sense. She sat down on the couch, smoothing her skirt as if we were discussing weekend plans. $50,000 isn't much for a wedding these days. It's really quite modest when you think about it. Milena nodded enthusiastically, still admiring her ring. I actually wanted a $100,000 wedding, but I thought about you, sis. I cut everything in half to make it easier on you. You should be thanking me, really. I mean, it's not like $50,000 is a lot of money for you anymore. I looked at my sister's smug face, my mother's expectant expression, and something inside me finally snapped. No, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I won't give you a penny for this wedding. The silence that followed was deafening. What? Milena whispered, her expression morphing from shock to rage. You heard me. I won't pay for a wedding for someone who's made my life hell since childhood. Someone who lied about me, stole from me, and got me punished for things I didn't do. Someone whose dirty tricks cost me my summer camp, my phone privileges, and countless other things. And you too, I turned to my parents, you always took her side. Always believed her lies over my truth. How dare you? Mom jumped up from the couch. After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done for me? I laughed. Let's talk about what you've actually done with my money. Show me the receipts. What receipts? Dad finally spoke up. The medical bills I've been paying for. The house repairs you said you needed. Show me where my $18,000 went over the past year. The room went very quiet. Mom and Dad exchanged panicked looks. We used it for necessary things, Mom stammered. Necessary things like Milena's shopping sprees? Her restaurant visits? Her new designer clothes? I pulled out my phone and opened Milena's Facebook page. Funny how someone living with our struggling parents can afford Gucci bags and weekly spa visits. Milena's face turned red. You've been stalking me? No, I've been watching you flaunt my money all over social media. You selfish bastard, Milena screamed, tears streaming down her face. You have everything. A fancy job, a nice car, a beautiful apartment. Why can't you share? We raised you better than this, Dad joined in. You've become a greedy, heartless person. Heartless? I felt surprisingly calm. No, what's heartless is manipulating your daughter for money. What's heartless is spending her college fund on your favorite child. What's heartless is lying about medical bills to bankroll your youngest daughter's lifestyle. I picked up my bag. I'm done. The monthly payments stop today. Don't call me, don't message me, don't ask me for anything ever again. You can't do this to us. Milena was in full hysterics now, mascara running down her face. I've already told everyone about my dream wedding. I walked to the door, turned around one last time. That sounds like a you problem. The calls and messages started before I reached my rental car. By the time I got to my hotel, my phone was flooded with notifications. Texts calling me heartless, ungrateful, selfish. Voicemails from Mom crying about family obligations. Messages from Milena threatening to tell everyone what a terrible person I was. Fine. Let everyone know. I sat down at my laptop and started typing, an open letter about family, money, and truth. I detailed everything, the childhood manipulation, the stolen college fund, the recent financial deception. I attached screenshots of Milena's lavish posts timestamped during the months I was sending medical money. I ended with their demands for a $50,000 wedding. The post went viral within our extended family circle. Aunt Susan called it disgraceful behavior. Cousin Mike said he'd never seen such manipulation. Uncle Robert, always the family peacemaker, canceled his RSVP to Milena's wedding. 3 months later, my cousin Jamie told me about Milena's wedding, a quiet dinner at Olive Garden with her husband's family and our parents. No designer dress, no fancy venue, no elaborate flower arrangements. Just breadsticks and limited menu options. I smiled when I heard the news, but felt no satisfaction. I was too busy living my own life. My team at work had just completed a successful project launch. I'd started dating Michael, a kind software engineer who understood my boundaries about family. My therapist said I was making excellent progress. Sometimes, late at night, I still get message requests from my family. I delete them without reading. The little girl who desperately wanted her parents' approval is gone. In her place is a woman who finally understands that real family doesn't have to share your blood, they just have to share your values.
My sister is getting married? I don't care. The younger sister's comment sparked laughter from both our parents. You're ugly and a failure, you know? Really? It's pitiful that someone like you would be anyone's wife. Feeling something cool inside me as the three of them laughed. I realized just how much they disregarded me. I never had any expectations, but to be treated with such disdain. Do they really not care about me at all? Well, fine. If that's how they feel, I won't hold back either. The time had come to right all the wrongs I had suffered from my family. Ready to leave everything behind, I started taking action. My name is Kelly Morris, and I'm 30 years old. I work for a big tech. I have one troubling issue, my family. I have a father, a mother, and a younger sister, and frankly, our relationship is not good. I'm the only one who is excluded in the family. This didn't just start recently. My parents adored my sister Mandy, not me. Despite her being my only sister, I couldn't help but despise her. Mandy was born when I was 2. I don't remember much from that time. But I do remember how happy my parents were when she was born. Naturally, that's a normal reaction for parents. But what I couldn't understand was their behavior afterward. After Mandy's birth, my parents completely ignored me. Yet, whenever Mandy called them, they'd rush to her side. Eventually, I became a nuisance to my parents. You're ugly compared to Mandy, our child, yet you have nothing good about you. And other hurtful words were hurled at me. I was young then and didn't fully understand, but as I grew older, I gained knowledge and began to understand what they meant. Desperate for their approval, I threw myself into my studies and sports. As a result, I advanced to national competitions with my badminton club and was accepted into a prestigious high school. I went straight into one of the nation's top universities, and after that, I was active in university clubs and got a job at a big tech. I've tried desperately hard, yet my parents have never once praised me. Contrary to me, my sister Mandy always liked to compare things. When I secured my job, she spoke mockingly. You think working at a good company is everything, don't you? It's not like that. I think various experiences are necessary. And that's why I was active in clubs during university. You don't get it for women, it's all about looks and style. You've never participated in a beauty pageant like I did at university, have you? Sure, you are cute. But that doesn't mean everything goes your way. I gave her a bit of a lecture. She then held her stomach and laughed, ha ha ha. You're really stupid. For women, as long as you're pretty, everything else will work out. What? That's not how it works. Don't you see it at home? I'm cute, so Mom and Dad love me so much. Why would you say that? Besides, both Mandy and I are their daughters. It's really funny how different we are as their daughters. Thanks to you, my self-esteem is through the roof. Thanks. Her words finally broke me. I had planned to commute from my parents' home after getting a job. But I couldn't stand being with my family any longer, and decided to move into the company dormitory. Since then, I haven't seen my family. If they contact me, I plan to respond. But there has been no apology from Mandy, and no messages from my parents. Normally, when their child gets a job and moves away, they would check in. How are you doing, or how's work? But even after 7 years, there's no contact from them. It's clear they are not interested in me. Despite everything, I'm currently engaged to a man. He is Steve Thompson, a senior colleague at my company. Steve was my mentor when I joined the company and supported me at work. Initially, we were just senior and junior colleagues, but 3 years ago, we started working on the same project and our relationship progressed. Our distance closed, and I began to see him not just as a senior colleague, but with romantic feelings. It seems he felt the same. One day, about 6 months after I started having feelings for him, Steve expressed his feelings for me. Ms. Morris is no, Kelly. The time I spend with you really makes me happy. So, would you go out with me? Mr. Thompson. Please stop calling me Mr. From now on, I'd like you to call me by my first name. Can I call you Kelly too? Of course. Please let me call you Steve when it's just the two of us. Ah, gladly. Looking forward to our future together. Yes. I look forward to it too. And so, I started dating the man I loved. 2 years later, Steve finally proposed. Of course, I happily accepted, and that's how we got engaged. I want to marry the person I love and share countless happy moments together. I never doubted that we could be happy together. Since we were going to get married, I had to properly inform my family at least once. I decided to discuss this with Steve. Hey Steve. I've told you about my family, right? So, I'm debating whether to tell them about our wedding date. It's tough. Since we couldn't even greet them for the engagement, I would like them to at least attend the ceremony. That's what I thought. As he said, my family had already once refused to meet. Not just me, but Steve and I. When Steve proposed, he wanted to greet my family. However, both my parents and my sister firmly refused. We're not so idle as to spend time on such things, they dismissed it, and that was that. No matter how bad my memories with my family are, I at least want them to attend my once-in-a-lifetime wedding. I decided to first try calling my sister. As I hesitated to press the call button, staring at the screen, Steve spoke up, Huh? What's up? That icon, is that your sister? Yeah, that's right. Her name is Mandy. Unlike me, she's cute. Oh, right. Mandy. Wow, what a coincidence. Watching Steve get excited on his own, I was puzzled and asked, What do you mean? He explained with a smile. Actually, there's a junior I was close with in college. I've invited him to the wedding, and I just met him recently. And he showed me a picture of his girlfriend. What? Could it be that was Mandy? Yeah. Crazy coincidence, right? But maybe it's a different person. According to the junior, she's a good, family-oriented girl with a great personality. And I think he said she's an only child. It seems Mandy has hidden my existence and posed as an only child. While I was genuinely shocked, it wasn't surprising coming from her. Therefore, I decided to keep the fact that I am Mandy's sister a secret from that junior until the day of the ceremony. Meanwhile, I also had to visit my parents about the wedding. A week later, I was in my hometown for the first time in about 7 years, hurrying to my parents' house with heavy steps. The regret came immediately after I arrived at the house. My sister began insulting me the moment she saw my face, without any sign of surprise. "Huh, big sis, what are you doing here? Did you run out of money and come to mooch off mom and dad?" "That's not it. I came because there's something important." "Something important? Like declaring disownment?" That would be hilarious. At my sister's words, even our father and mother began to laugh out loud. Over their laughter, I spoke clearly. "I'm getting married. The ceremony is on the 30th next month, and I came to inform you about it." With that, the room fell silent. Then my sister burst out laughing. "Big sis getting married? I really couldn't care less. Wait a minute, it's a family wedding after all. By the way, the whole family is going to Hawaii that day, so we'll be absent from your wedding." "The whole family? What about me? If I can't attend the ceremony, at least let my fiancé greet you." "What? That's a waste of time, right? Mom and Dad think so too, don't they?" Following my sister's remarks, my father and mother began to laugh as well. "You're ugly and a failure, you know?" "Really? It's pitiful that someone like you would be anyone's wife." As the three of them laughed loudly, I felt something inside me cool and detach. I hadn't expected much from the beginning, but to be disregarded to this extent. Do they really not care about me at all? Well, fine. If that's how they feel, I won't hold back either. Turning my back on them as they mocked me, I simply said, "Understood," and left my family home. It had been 7 years since I last visited, yet my stay lasted only about 10 minutes. I hadn't anticipated such outright denial of my existence. But this only strengthened my resolve. I would make them regret casting me aside. Afterward, I asked Steve for help and steadily prepared for my revenge. To keep it from my family, I secretly informed my relatives about the wedding date and arranged for them to attend. Thus came the day of the wedding, a day prepared with revenge in mind. As a crowd of guests gathered at the venue, Steve, his parents, and I lined up in the reception hall. The hall began to buzz, and relatives asked, "Where are Mandy and her family?" Answering their questions, I took the microphone and began to speak slowly. "Thank you all for gathering here today for us. As you can see, my family is not present. I would like to discuss the reasons for this." I then confessed openly about my circumstances, how my family treated me over the years, and how they had refused to acknowledge my marriage or attend the ceremony, revealing everything. My family despised and looked down on me, and they didn't show their faces even on a day as special as today. So, I decided to tell all of you who know my family everything about them. My voice shook towards the end. Tears that I had been holding back welled up and ran down my cheeks. Steve placed his hand on my back and gently stroked it. As if a string had snapped, tears streamed down freely. After the reception, relatives apologized for not noticing sooner, and expressed their intention to cut ties with my family, all asserting their support for me. After most had left, Steve, his junior colleague Keith, and I remained. Keith then spoke up softly. "I had no idea that Kelly, Steve's fiancée, was Mandy's sister. I'm sorry, I didn't know anything. No, I'm the one who should apologize for surprising you." This was all to vent my own frustrations. If you still want to maintain a relationship with Mandy, I won't stop you. No. I need to think. Mandy claimed she was an only child and boasted about how much she valued family. Yet this. I'm sorry for causing you such trouble. Thank you for coming today. Despite Keith's apparent concern about Mandy, there was a refreshed look on his face. I need to think it over, he had said, but perhaps he had already made up his mind. Later, my married life with Steve began. On a holiday, as we were enjoying a relaxed day together, my phone rang. The caller ID displayed Mandy, and it was Keith making the call. As soon as I answered, my sister began to yell furiously. "Don't mess with me. What did you do to Keith? So, he's told you something, has he? Did you orchestrate this? We were about to get married. And he said to me, 'I heard everything from your sister, I want to break up.'" Her breathing was rough, and she sounded utterly distraught, even through the phone. I struggled to suppress a laugh and slowly responded. "Do you know why he would say that?" "What?" "So you did investigate my boyfriend and spread lies about me because you hate me? Who goes that far? That's unbelievable. You also must have said unnecessary things to the relatives." "What lies?" "I only spoke the truth. At the wedding, I simply shared our family's story." "At the wedding?" "Yes. Since our family didn't attend, I explained to the guests why. I told them about how you all treated me, what kind of hurtful things you've said. Keith was very upset, you know?" "What? Why would you tell such a story?" "Of course it would make me look bad. That's why I told it. To make you regret how you've treated me." "How cruel. I never did anything that bad to you." In her mind, the numerous insults she hurled at me weren't that bad. The fact that I shared these truths with others made me cruel, but excluding me was not? That's absurd. Before I knew it, I raised my voice in anger. "Don't mess with me. I never did anything bad? How could you even say that? Do you have any idea how much you've made me suffer? My heart has been broken over and over by you." "What, you? After ruining someone's love life, how dare you act so self-righteous? It's all karma. If you hadn't treated me so poorly, I wouldn't have needed to reveal anything at the wedding. And you wouldn't have been dumped by your boyfriend. Your past actions have come back to haunt you. I will never forgive you and your family. Go to hell, all of you." With that, I hung up before she could respond, and continued to ignore her calls, blocking them instead. Since then, it didn't take long for my family to fall into their own hell. Apparently, Mandy had been shouting in the office, "Please reconsider. I won't break up," which led to reprimands from superiors and cold stares from colleagues, eventually driving her to become a recluse. Even my parents faced criticism from relatives for their role in the fiasco, becoming pariahs themselves. Having been doted on for having a beautiful daughter, they now lived a shadow of their previous lives, only seen when my father ventured out alone to the store at night. It was all their own doing. They deserved to suffer. As for me, I was happily married to Steve. Since that day, many people have reached out to care for me. And even relatives started contacting me. Expressing my feelings and appealing to others showed that change was possible. Something I had learned firsthand. With this experience, I resolved to live honestly and openly in the future. My name is Wendy Stone, and I work in architecture at a major house-building company. I decided to master this job while I was a student. My father, who died in an accident shortly after I started middle school, had always dreamed of obtaining his architect's license and starting his ideal company. Unfortunately, he passed away before realizing that dream. I vowed to fulfill his dream in his stead. From that time, I have lived with a goal in mind. I am now married and live with my husband, Ryan. We do not have children. I love my work and knew that having children would change my ability to work as before. When we married, Ryan understood that I did not want children at the moment. Wendy. Good job today. Do you have time after the meeting? What's up? I have some things I'd like to discuss, and maybe we could go out for a drink? How about we have a small home party instead? I have some good wine at home. That sounds great. I'd love to go. Then, let's do some shopping after the meeting and head home early for once. Yay! As promised, I left work early that day, taking Katie, my most cherished junior colleague, back to my apartment. We quickly prepared some easy dishes and some delicatessen bought from the supermarket and began drinking. Although we had gone out to drink and eat many times before, this was the first time I had invited her to my home. Being at home, we drank without restraint. Since it's a day off tomorrow, why don't you stay over? But your husband will be home soon, right? I really shouldn't impose. He'll be back soon, but it's totally fine. While we were talking, my husband came home. I'm home. Oh. Do we have a guest? Welcome back. This is Katie, a junior colleague from work. We're having a little home party today. Nice to meet you. I've always been taken care of by Wendy. No problem, can I join too? Sure, I'll get you a glass. And so, the three of us ended up drinking together. Little did I know, this would lead to a turn in my life. Having just finished a big project and due to continuous overtime, I was quite tired and fell asleep early on the sofa, leaving the two of them alone. When I woke up in the middle of the night, I could vaguely see them having fun in the distance. I wondered if they were still drinking, but I went back to sleep. When I woke up the next day, Katie was gone. Good morning, you slept well. It's already noon. Wow. I slept that much. Where's Katie? She left this morning. I drove her to the station. She said not to wake you up because you were tired, such a considerate junior. I'm sorry, you must have been up late, right? No, we didn't drink that late. At this moment, I felt something odd about my husband's words, but didn't pursue it further. I clearly remembered waking up in the middle of the night. I thought they had been enjoying their time drinking late, but why he hid that fact? Whether he was considerate of me, I said nothing at the time. Then, 3 months passed, and I invited Katie to drink at home again. I'm not feeling well lately, I've stopped drinking. What's wrong? Are you ill? It's nothing serious, maybe I've been drinking too much lately. I see. Let me know if there's anything. My husband would be happy too, so come visit again. Ah. Yes. Weeks later, after finishing overtime, I came home to find Ryan and Katie there. Oh. What's up? Did you come to visit? Though, it seems like that's not the case. Wendy, could you sit down? What? Actually, that day when we drank together and you fell asleep, Katie and I ended up alone, and I was giving her some advice. We started talking regularly since then because we still had things to discuss. Okay. Since then, we've met several times without telling you. Ah, I see. Why didn't you tell me? Was there a reason you couldn't say anything? Wendy, I'm really sorry. Katie and I are dating. What? I'm really sorry, she's pregnant. It's my child. Wendy, could we get a divorce? Wait, what? Katie is the junior I've been caring for, right? I know that very well, that's why I'm truly sorry. Katie was just crying next to Ryan. Normally, this situation would be very unsettling, but I was thinking calmly at the time. Perhaps, being so dedicated to my work, I must have been a boring wife to him. Although there was a problem with the person he cheated with, I wasn't very shocked by the fact that he cheated. I'm okay with the divorce. I don't need any compensation. But if Katie is pregnant, it's best she quits her job. I can't keep looking after a junior who's pregnant with my husband's child. Wendy. Katie, there's no use crying. If anyone should be crying, it's me who was betrayed by both my husband and my junior. Yet if you cry so much, I can't even do that. I maintained my composure until the end. I can live on my own, and Ryan probably wanted children sooner or later. So this is for the best. That was my honest feeling at the time. Wendy, thank you truly. This is an amicable divorce, I appreciate it. Normally, this kind of story would become very complicated. Since I accepted it so easily, it's natural that Ryan and Katie would feel grateful to me. However, I couldn't forget the frustration I felt at that time. After our divorce was finalized, they got married and became a family. I have my own life goals. I wanted to think that this was the right decision for me. Sometime after the divorce, I got in touch with a senior from university, who had always been on the same career path as me. He was 2 years older than me, and we had met in various exams, and always clicked well in conversation. He had joined a different major company before me, and we occasionally kept in touch. But the contact naturally faded after he got married and employed. Wendy, long time no see. I heard through the grapevine that a powerhouse career woman got divorced. So I thought now would be a good time to boldly ask you out to dinner. Are you available? If it were you, Jeff, I would have come running even if I were still married. Obviously, I couldn't ask then. It would have been disrespectful to your husband. You're as thoughtful as ever, Jeff. I'm free today, actually. Great. Let's go out today then. This was the first time I was going out to eat with someone after the divorce. Since then, I hadn't thought much about anything other than work. With dinner with Jeff planned, I was actually a bit excited about something other than work. The afternoon flew by, and I finished work a bit early, got ready, and headed to our meeting place. Jeff arrived at the restaurant right on time. It's been a while. Wendy, really long time no see. I've been hearing about your achievements. How have you been? After the divorce, things were a bit hectic, but it's settled down now. I'm thinking about planning the next steps for my work. It must have been tough. Is everything okay with that now? I think they're probably living peacefully now that they've remarried. And I've moved on and am living comfortably on my own. That's tough. As for me, I'm still the same, always alone. How's work going? I've been keeping an eye on your successes too. I actually invited you today to talk about work. When I heard you got divorced, I honestly thought, now's the time. What do you mean? Wendy. How about we start that company you've always dreamed of, together? Me? With you, Jeff? I've always thought if I were to go independent, I'd do it with you. But when you got married, I was unsure about the future. and just hung around at my current company. I never thought you'd think so highly of me, Jeff. Wendy, I've always known you've been setting goals for your future for a long time. I don't want to get in your way, but if being by your side can help make a shortcut. And if I can be of help, I'd like to start a business together. Is that okay? Thank you. But please let me think about it a little. Of course, I'm thinking positively. Understood. Let's put this conversation aside for now and just enjoy today. Let's eat and drink a lot. Yes. I had never considered starting a business with someone else. Should I involve someone else in the simple childhood dream of fulfilling my father's dream? I have always respected Jeff. He's reliable. And more importantly, he has achievements and connections. If I were to start a company, he would be the best partner. Today was truly enjoyable, and we spent a long time reminiscing about the old days. From this day on, Jeff and I started going out to eat more frequently. At this time, I found myself enjoying the time spent with Jeff. Looking forward to meeting him again, and feeling a different emotion. Perhaps if I had felt this way about Ryan, we wouldn't have ended up divorcing. And then, I made a big decision. To put an end to what had been with Jeff and start anew. That was my resolution. Today, I was going to see Jeff. Jeff, sorry for the sudden visit today. It's always something with you, Wendy, but I'm used to it now. That's right. I have something important to discuss today. Oh. Yes. Jeff, even though I've failed once, will you date me with the intention of getting married? Ah. What? Sorry it's so sudden. No. I mean, I thought we were talking about work, so I was surprised. Let me answer you straight. We don't need any conditions. Let's get married. Really? I've liked you since college, Wendy, so there's no reason for me to refuse your proposal. Does that mean I took the long way around? You stopped contacting me after you got a job, and before I knew it, you got married. I thought I shouldn't disturb you once you became a working professional. That's very like you, Wendy. But now that we've reconnected, I'm satisfied. From that moment, we started dating. Reconnecting with him whom I've known for so long, I fell in love with him. And the concern of fulfilling my father's dream with someone else seemed less significant. If that someone was my partner in marriage. We prepared to start our marriage and our company. Clearly defining our work-life balance and enjoying the little time we had as lovers. We continued our jobs while preparing for independence. And simultaneously designed and built a new house with an office on the first floor. And our home on the second and third floors. My new life began with a divorce. Soon, we would leave our current companies and start a big challenge. Still, as long as we were together, I felt nothing but positive. And surprisingly, I told him I wanted children, something I had never felt before. We were simply happy. And once the construction of our new home was completed, our new life truly began. Our work went smoothly, and we became a topic in the industry due to our well-prepared start. Then one day, Ryan called. Ryan? What's up? Wendy, could we meet sometime soon? What's the matter? I have something I want to discuss. Just hold on a moment. I put Ryan on hold and told Jeff about the call at the desk where he was working. And checked if it was okay to go. We just started our new office, and I'm busy. Could you come to the office instead? I conveyed this to Ryan. He seemed surprised. Then, he said he would visit with Katie and the child. I gave him the address and hung up. With a wonderful person like Jeff and in such a stylish office that we designed. Ryan wouldn't think his cheating ex-wife is living an unhappy life. Anyone would see that we are happy, don't worry. And then, Ryan visited the office with Katie. From the look of it, Katie didn't have the same sparkle she had when she worked with me. Appearing plain and not showing any signs of happiness. Sorry for intruding. Wendy, it's been a while. Sorry to bother you while you're busy. It's fine, take a seat for now. This office is impressive. You really made your dream come true. Congratulations. Thank you, but there's still a long way to go. Here's some coffee. I designed this place and started the company with him. Nice to meet you. I'm working over there, so please take your time. Sorry for barging into your office like this. So, what's going on? Katie, you seem quite different. Is everything not going well? Actually, soon after Wendy and I divorced, I was laid off and lost my job. What? I looked for a job right away but couldn't find anything, and then our child was born. I wanted to care for them, so I've been working part-time jobs that allow me some freedom. But I can't keep this up forever. So why come to me? Well, I was hoping you could introduce me to some work. Even if it's not for me, maybe you could talk to Katie's former workplace to take her back. I was a bit troubled when Jeff intervened. Sorry to interrupt, but isn't it wrong to ask her for that? What? I don't mean to speak out of turn, but she's my wife. I'd appreciate it if you didn't underestimate her. Considering what you two have done, why would you even come here? Isn't it shameful? It's disgraceful. Let's go home. Katie, if you're confident in the work you did at the company, why not contact them yourself? I always thought of you as a competent subordinate. Have confidence. Wendy. Don't look so sad. It's not good for the child if their mom looks like that. You were right to divorce him. Found a good man and moved on quickly, huh? How can you say that? But it's true, right? Maybe you planned that day when Katie came? Waiting for something to happen between us. That's terrible. Just go home. That's right, please leave. She's not like that, and I was the one who contacted her after a long time. It's not like she reached out because we divorced. Wow. But even when you're together, all she thinks about is work, right? It must not be fun. We keep work as work. We make sure to go out on dates every week. And thoroughly enjoy our time together, don't we? It seems that wasn't the case when you were married. But ultimately, you say you don't want kids because you're career people, right? That's why you can't really be a family. That was your experience, was it? She told me she wants children once things settle down with the office. We brought the living quarters upstairs to make it easier for her to work. Katie. Let's go. Yes. Wendy, you were right to divorce me. Be happy. Ryan, take care. Treat Katie well. That day, I showed my ex-husband my success. I don't know what they're up to now, but I hope, since that day, they have managed to turn things around and are doing well. A year later, we welcomed our long-awaited baby. I worked hard during my pregnancy, but now I'll let my husband handle the work, while I focus on raising our child. I am undoubtedly happy. My father, too, must be smiling down from afar. I've never met anyone who was worse than my husband Ben. I truly believe he was the worst man ever. It was his reaction that was especially shocking when he learned I was pregnant. I wish it had been Karen's child. Right in front of the new life in my womb, Ben let that slip. What followed was a mess of his excuses, and eventually, he pushed for a divorce. My name is Sandra Owen. I'm a 40-year-old housewife. Being a housewife allowed me to lead a stable life, thanks to Tony, who remarried me. Originally, I had a former husband whom I was married to for 2 years. His name was Ben, and he was the manager of the cafe I often visited. Ben, recognizing me as a frequent visitor, struck up a conversation, and it led to a relationship. While we were dating, he seemed like any other man, and I had no bad impressions of him. Being the same age, we got along well. After 3 years of dating, we tied the knot. I became a married woman, and coincidentally, Ben changed his job and started working in a trading company. His salary increased significantly compared to when he was a cafe manager. However, after our marriage, his attitude completely changed. Ben, I want to go pay the rent tomorrow, can I get the money? After marrying Ben, I became a housewife at his request. I was supposed to manage all household chores and our finances. Each month, I would receive his pay slip and budget it for the month. Initially, I thought living on a single income would be tough. But surprisingly, we managed with just Ben's salary. Although I handled the money management, Ben never gave me access to the bank accounts or cards. So I always had to ask him verbally. Whenever I asked for money for the rent, Ben would reluctantly agree. You know, you have it easy. Just doing household chores and you can stay in this house. Saying this, Ben handed me an envelope, apparently fresh from the bank. Should I get a job then? And what about the house? I never thought the very person who asked me to be a housewife would criticize me for it. However, working in a company must be stressful. There are many men who can only vent at home. I accepted this as part of Ben's character, his weakness, and tried to interact with him with a smile. But looking back, the kindness I showed him now infuriates me. Our married life, although sometimes we had our differences, was more normal than I had expected. We weren't suddenly impoverished. I received a small allowance, and while we weren't rich, we lived moderately well. However, on the day of our 6-month anniversary, Ben didn't come home. Hey! It's our anniversary today. What time will you be back? I sent messages through the app, but they weren't read for a long time. Time passed, and before I knew it, it was past midnight. The elaborate meal I had prepared had completely cooled, and I reached my limit of sleepiness first. The next day, when I went to the living room, the side dishes that should have been wrapped were thrown in the trash. What? You came home? And what is this? This is awful. Holding back my sadness, I headed to Ben's bedroom. There, he was lying on the bed, still in his suit. Ben, wake up. I shook him gently as I spoke. After a while, Ben woke up. What, you're so noisy. He was clearly in a bad mood, but I decided to ask him anyway. The food I left on the table. Why did you throw it away? Huh? I don't remember. I came back drunk yesterday. Let me sleep. With that, Ben brushed my hand aside and fell back into a deep sleep. Looking at him, I suddenly felt empty. Moreover, at that time, I had something I hadn't yet told him. I had intended to reveal it as part of our anniversary celebration. But I couldn't even talk about it. I could feel it in my bones. Our marital relationship, although slowly, was cooling off. One day, after Ben had slept all day and I had spent my time doing household chores, I broached a serious topic in the evening when he woke up. What do you want to talk about? I want to play games. When I spoke to him, Ben clearly looked annoyed. It was disheartening for me too, but I couldn't give up here. Look, I didn't get my period last month, and it still hasn't come. When I said that, Ben stopped moving and turned to me with a muttering voice. What? That's what it means. Did you test? Did you take a test? Of course. It was positive. Finally, we're having a baby. I found myself smiling as I spoke. This child was something I had long desired. Living alone in this house without Ben was lonely. If I could raise a child, play with them. The possibilities seemed endless. However, Ben's response was not what I had hoped for. Are you kidding me? You're pregnant. What are we going to do now? Ben, you don't want children. It was my turn to be stunned. My previously smiling face froze, and I felt my heart trying to leap from my throat. Surely, I must be making a foolish face right now. Ben had said, "We'll think about it when the child is here." And I had thought he wanted children too. But reality was apparently not so simple. A child from you would never be cute. What did you say? As I stumbled over my words, Ben continued. I wish it had been Karen's child. Oops. Ben hastily covered his mouth, but of course, I did not miss that. What do you mean by that? I was fully alert to Ben's slip. Wait, don't tell me, are you cheating? Ben averted his eyes from my question. I'm asking you. I yelled out loud, causing Ben to flinch. Then he said, I just don't love you anymore. Really, there's no appeal in a housewife. I felt a violent shock and anger. It was none other than Ben himself who had asked me to be this unappealing housewife. So, you mean it would have been better if I had kept working, right? I was ready to give up my career to become your wife. Are you trampling all over that? Stop that. You're so annoying, always picking fights. So, there was no need for me to become a housewife after all. I was overwhelmed by anger and sorrow and could hardly keep my composure. Yet Ben responded indifferently, which made it all the more painful. If you hadn't become a housewife, who would have taken care of the house? I get stressed when the house is dirty. It was utterly ridiculous. We were exchanging words, but there was no emotional exchange at all. Surely, nothing I said would get through. Yet, I desperately returned words. Your heart is the dirtiest of all right now. Ben then bluntly pushed a selfish conclusion. If you think so, let's just get a divorce. It'll make things quicker. I was at a loss for words. Ben kept pressing. I won't be paying child support. I don't have the money. So, whether you have the baby is up to you. Can people really be this cruel? It's merciless. After all, we had been together for over 4 years, including our dating period. Where did it go wrong? I had tried my best to be by his side. But perhaps he was just fickle, a person who couldn't appreciate the ongoing everyday life. But now, it was too late. After the talk, Ben went out and came back with the divorce papers, already filled out on his side. As I silently stared at them, he pressured me to sign. Ben was serious. Was today the end of our marriage? As I thought this, I hurriedly ran my pen across the paper. Watching Ben's expressionless face as I signed, my pen sped up. Thus, my status changed from a married woman to a divorced, pregnant single. After the divorce, I faced harsh days. I was left with about $5,000, which I managed to get through property division. That was no surprise, as Ben had squandered our savings without my knowledge. I had confronted him about the affair, but he never confessed the truth. I thought about hiring a detective or a lawyer. But I didn't have the funds or the mental state to pursue it further. It was best to cut off the source of evil. That's how I rationalized the divorce to myself. With my environment drastically changing and only $5,000 in savings, which might last a month at best, I had to find a new home, pay the initial costs, buy necessities, and find a job. Every day felt like hell to me. But gradually, I started to see some good results. I was grateful to find a job quickly. I got hired as a receptionist at a high-rise condo because I could speak Spanish. I found a new place, moved in, and managed to save $500, though life was still tight. Even though I found a job, I was pregnant and didn't know how long I could work. During this time, I met someone. That was Tony, who would become my new husband. We often talked, mainly because I was the receptionist. How do I get to the bulky trash area again? Again? I chuckled. He had just moved in and still couldn't grasp the layout of the building. Go down to the second basement floor, move right. And then turn left, where you'll find the entrance. Thank you so much. I'm new to a high-rise condo, and it feels like a maze. After my explanation, he laughed sheepishly. His pure smile and the honesty in his demeanor were apparent. We talked more outside of work, and 3 months into my job, he asked me out. But I'm divorced, you know? And I'm pregnant. Tony was certainly attractive to me. He apparently ran a major electronics manufacturer, which manufactured TVs, air conditioners, and even the parts for the elevators in our high-rise condo. However, he was humble, which I found appealing. And his good qualities didn't end there. A child? That's fine. Actually, I'm divorced too. What? I was surprised as he explained. I'm infertile. My previous wife left me because of it. I see. But if we were to get married, could you love a child that's not your own? I felt I had asked a heavy question, almost like a stressful job interview. But he immediately responded. There's no reason I couldn't love your child. Hearing those words, I nearly collapsed to my knees. His name is Tony Simpson, a 43-year-old corporate president, 3 years my senior. A man from a different world, willing to lift up someone like me. Honestly, I was afraid to believe it. It felt like some sort of prank. But looking into his eyes, I realized everything. His eyes were sincere, with no deceit, focused solely on me. Though I had no evidence, if Tony was my husband, he would surely cherish me. Or perhaps, like Ben, he might change. I wrestled with this in my mind until the end. But strangely, I felt a comfort with him that I had never experienced before. I stopped overthinking and took his hand. Thus, I started dating him, and we remarried soon. Just a short while ago, I couldn't have imagined remarrying so quickly. But remarriage wasn't the goal. My due date was approaching, and as it neared, I fell ill. My stomach hurts. When we married, I had to move out of the newly signed rental immediately. But Tony covered the penalty and moving expenses. Now, I live with him on the top floor of the high-rise condo. Tony, who I thought was a bit clueless, turned out to be a resident of the top floor, which made me doubt whether he really should be my spouse. Yet, when I said my stomach hurt, he panicked. Are you okay? What do you need? Despite his cool appearance, I started seeing his flustered side. With Tony's support, I safely gave birth to a daughter. But then, a significant issue arose. The doctor had unexpected news. Mr. Simpson, Please brace yourself. Your daughter has almost no vision. What? Tony and I froze, unable to comprehend the doctor's words as we looked at each other. The doctor continued with a sympathetic expression. Her vision won't lead to complete blindness, but it will be quite weak. Although initially confused by the doctor's words, we knew that our newborn daughter was not at fault. Definitely, abandoning her because she couldn't see was not an option. We were grateful she came into this world, and we named her Heaven. Since then, apart from her visual impairment, Heaven grew up without any issues and recently celebrated her 9th birthday. Tony, did you find what you were looking for? Today, we were supposed to go shopping together for Heaven's birthday present. Sorry, you two go ahead to the store. I'll catch up. Hearing this, I left the house with Heaven. Mommy, is Daddy coming? He'll come later, don't worry. Because her vision is limited, Heaven held my hand tightly as we walked. I was describing the path to her when someone suddenly spoke to me. Hey, aren't you Sandra? Turning toward the voice, I was shocked to find Ben Miller, my ex-husband who had left me 10 years ago. Ben, what are you doing in such a fancy neighborhood? What does it matter to you? I suddenly became aware of my shallow breathing. I couldn't seem to get enough oxygen. Sensing my distress, Heaven spoke up. Mommy? Who are you talking to? Stay quiet for a bit, Heaven. As I tried to calm Heaven, my ex-husband responded. Wow, is this the kid that was born? Why has she been squinting the whole time? That's none of your business. I retorted, and Ben paused for a moment before replying in a mocking tone. Huh, can't she see? Pfft. The kid's defective just like her mother. Laughing loudly by himself, passers-by stared at him with puzzled looks. I felt embarrassed being in such a situation. Troubled that I had dragged Heaven into this. This man always knew how to upset me. And as I was reflecting on this, a voice suddenly came from behind. Sandra, Heaven, what's going on? Turning around, I saw Tony standing there. At the same moment, Ben began to tremble when he saw him. Mr. Simpson. Hearing Ben's words, I was in disbelief. Tony asked him. Weren't you the one who came for an interview the day before yesterday, Ben? What are you doing here? I could tell from being with Tony often that his voice was displeased. To others, it might seem like a normal inquiry, but I couldn't be fooled. Ben was visibly shaken by Tony's words. Well, I was thinking about moving after getting an offer from your company. So I was checking out the area. Is that so? And do you think you'll be joining our company? The conversation seemed more like an interrogation by Tony. With each word, Ben became more flustered. The way he had behaved towards my daughter and me moments ago seemed like a complete lie. I thought the interview went well. Ben muttered weakly. Watching the two of them, I could piece together what was happening. Ben had come for a mid-career interview at Tony's company and was now waiting for the outcome. Tony had likely been one of the interviewers. As Ben honestly shared his thoughts on the interview, Tony's face smiled, but his eyes were cold. Taking a breath, Tony then looked straight at Ben and began to speak. Do you think someone who speaks ill of my own wife and child belongs in my company? With Tony's words, it became clear that our previous conversation had been overheard. What? Your wife and child? No, I didn't mean. Ben was stunned and immobilized by the revelation, but Tony did not relent in his pursuit. Why are you surprised? I've heard about your past with Sandra. I never imagined that the person applying to my company was you. At Tony's words, Ben was at a loss for words. His lips twitched as if he wanted to say something, but no sound came out. Additionally, he was visibly sweating profusely from his forehead. Well. Ben was completely cornered. In this situation, there was nothing he could say that would allow him to prevail over Tony. Tony's momentum was unstoppable. When you insulted my wife and child, it was as if you insulted me. Insulting me is one thing. But I will never forgive someone who speaks ill of my precious family. Ben let out an inaudible grunt and froze with his mouth open. For now, you're not hired. There's no need to discuss it further with HR. Tony coldly delivered the verdict, and Ben collapsed on the spot. He then started to mumble something, though it was unclear whether he was speaking to us or just to himself. I turned down marriage proposals and boasted to everyone about this job. I even bought a new car. And now, to think I'd fail an interview over a single insult. Observing his demeanor, I could tell that Ben still did not think he was at fault. But Tony felt the same way and said mercilessly, "If you cannot grasp the severity of that single offense, then you understand nothing. Please disappear forever from our sight." The normally gentle Tony who showed his kindness to me was not present now. Instead, he resembled a noble male lion standing alone to protect his pack. At the same time, I felt proud of him and reassured about my decision to marry him. "Please, never appear before us again," as Tony said. Ben gave no response. Seeing this, Tony raised his voice a bit more and shouted, "Well," and Ben responded in a frightened voice, "Right, I got it." My daughter, who had been sensing only the voices, clung to me, and for once, I was glad that her vision was impaired. It was not appropriate for my growing daughter to witness such a dismal scene. Ben, scolded by us, walked away with a soulless expression. His aura was one of complete despair, but I felt no sympathy for him. He had caused me much suffering. Frankly, I thought he deserved to suffer even more. Although Ben's sudden appearance caused a disturbance. Once it was over, Tony returned to his usual calm self. "Tony, thank you. Don't mention it." Tony smiled back at me as I thanked him. However, in a typical clumsy moment, he exclaimed, "Oh, I left my wallet," and had to go back home. I couldn't help but burst into laughter at his action. But I knew that with him, life would surely be enjoyable from now on. My name is Sarah. The events I'm about to describe may sound like something out of a soap opera, but they are all true. To me, they represent a past I'd rather not remember. It all began when I was approaching my late 20s. As those around me got married, I felt a growing sense of loneliness. As if I was being left behind. I was literally desperate to get married. Perhaps that made me somewhat blind to love. Anyone who would say they liked me was good enough. In this state of mind, I asked a friend at work if they knew anyone suitable. Not really expecting much. Surprisingly, they did introduce someone. Even a lawyer, a profession that many would envy. I'll be honest, the thought of dating a lawyer and the sense of superiority it would bring was appealing. So, I eagerly asked my friend to set it up. "Nice to meet you, I'm Sarah." "Nice to meet you, too. I'm Ryan." That was our first meeting. Ryan seemed like a nice, serious, and kind young man, exactly the type of person I wanted as a boyfriend. "I assume you know, but I work as a lawyer. I'm just a regular office worker." I get a bit nervous talking to a lawyer. Oh, I'm not that difficult to talk to in my private life. In fact, I'm often told I'm too frivolous. Really? That's unexpected. I get that a lot. I assume you heard from a friend that I only graduated from high school. I really shouldn't be in a position to talk with a lawyer. Nonsense. Your educational background doesn't matter. Please, see me as an individual. Ryan. Thank you. You see, I couldn't go to university because of my family's situation. At the time, it didn't bother me, but once I entered the workforce, every time someone looked at the education section of my resume ending with high school and frowned, I realized the world wasn't so forgiving. However, Ryan said he didn't care about that, which made me genuinely happy. He was easy to talk to, had plenty of topics to discuss, and knew how to make me feel entertained. I enjoyed our conversations, and the atmosphere felt right. Is it this late already? Are you going home by taxi? Yes, that's the plan. Then, please let me pay for it. Oh, that would be too much. We've just met today. That's exactly why. What? Could we possibly meet again? I'll pay for the taxi now, and in return, please go on another date with me. I couldn't refuse. His words sounded like something from a soap opera, and my heart fluttered in a way it never had before. I mistook this for the beginning of love. After that, we began to meet frequently. Most of the time, Ryan initiated our meetings. Surely, he took a liking to me. I thought so selfishly. Here, would you accept this? What is it? Open it. I bought it thinking it would suit you. I hope you like it. Wow. It's a necklace from a popular brand. Yes. I asked the store clerk for a recommendation, and this is what they suggested. Thank you. I'm really happy. Good to hear that you like it. We were an ideal couple that anyone would envy. He was a lawyer by profession, kind-hearted, paid for all our dates, and never missed giving gifts. All my friends were envious when I told them about him. Perhaps I was a bit conceited in that environment. And it didn't take long for us to get married. Ryan proposed after we'd been dating for 6 months. And of course, I immediately said yes. At the time, I thought nothing of it. But now I think getting married after only 6 months was too soon. We were probably only seeing each other's good sides, not even trying to see the bad. It was undoubtedly premature. Of course, everyone around us celebrated. I had friends who were envious, and I felt very good about it. Now newlyweds, however, I soon realized that this marriage was a mistake. Ryan, you're late again today? Yeah, there's a company party, so I don't need dinner. Okay. But we're newlyweds. I thought maybe we could spend a little more time together. What? What do you think I'm working hard for? That is, since you became part-time after we got married, our household income has dropped. So it's only natural I have to work, right? Yes, I really appreciate that. Then stop complaining. You just need to keep quiet and follow what I say. Okay, I'll do that. Since getting married, I quit my job and started working part-time at a supermarket near our new home. I had more time, and since my husband was a high-income lawyer, we weren't struggling financially. Everyone at my new job was friendly and easy to talk to. Yet, despite having more time and financial comfort, I felt a hole in my heart every day, feeling lonely. I doubted Ryan would understand even if I expressed this to him. Ryan used to understand me better than anyone else. and I could consult him about anything. I wonder when I started feeling the need to be overly cautious around him. Looking back, it seems to have started after we got married. After we officially became husband and wife, Ryan's personality changed completely. Could this be his true character? Had he been pretending all this time? Could it be that he revealed his true self only after making sure I couldn't escape by marrying me? Thinking this far, I was horrified. I should stop thinking such strange thoughts. It couldn't possibly be true for Ryan. To prove my thoughts wrong, I made an effort to express my feelings to him. "Hey Ryan, would you like to go out to eat sometime soon? There's a place I've been wanting to try." Out to eat? Give me a break, I've been going out with my boss every day. I want to rest on my days off. You might feel that way, but I've been stuck at home. I'd like to go out to eat once in a while. Huh? Are you asking me to indulge your whims? Well, calling it whims. You don't have to say it like that. I just wanted to go out with you, Ryan. That's exactly what being whimsical is. You know, that's quite bothersome. Why would you say that? When we were dating, we used to go out to eat together and visit various places. Well, when we were dating, I had to bait the fish, didn't I? What? Haven't you heard? Men don't feed the fish they've caught. I didn't care as long as I got a wife who would obey me. That's so, how can you say that? What's the problem? You have an easy job, and you're not struggling for money, right? It's not about that. I wanted to build a happy home together. Oh, I'm not interested in that. Ryan said this nonchalantly, waving his hand dismissively. I couldn't stop my tears. I had been deceived by Ryan all this time. It was wrong of me to be deceived, but this was too much. I immediately considered divorce. It hadn't been long since we got married, but I couldn't bear to be with such a person. Yet, I didn't have the courage to consult my friends or parents. After receiving such blessings from everyone, the idea of getting a divorce so quickly, I just didn't have the courage to tell them. Anyway, I proposed a divorce to Ryan. Ryan, I never thought you were this kind of person. Huh? What, you just realized this is my true nature and you're disillusioned now? Yes, I'm disappointed. Fortunately, we don't have children, and I want a divorce. Divorce? You, who works part-time, want a divorce? Yes. That's hilarious. How do you plan to live after divorcing me? When you've been living off my income? You can't even consult your friends or parents, can you? If you leave me, you'll really have nowhere to go, right? That may be true, but being treated like a servant by you here is far worse. What did you say? Let's get a divorce, Ryan. I can't stay with you anymore. I don't want to. Is that so? If you insist that much, I'll grant you the divorce. But remember, you'll be the one crawling back to me, because I am a lawyer. Ryan insulted me, calling me useless and good for nothing. But I gritted my teeth and endured, handing him the divorce papers. His words were cruel but true. I had nowhere to go. I didn't want to worry my parents, and I couldn't tell my friends, who had blessed me so warmly, about this reality. Ryan was cold until the end. The moment I filled out the divorce papers, he chased me out, saying, "Get out now. You are a stranger to me." With few belongings, I quickly packed and was thrown out of the house. The next day, as if being chased away, I rolled my suitcase aimlessly, fortunate that it was still light outside. I have to work tomorrow, so I need to find a nearby hotel or something. Is that you, Sarah? Huh. I turned around to the sudden voice and saw my best friend Nicole, who had given the friend representative speech at my wedding. Why are you rolling a suitcase around? Don't tell me you ran away from home. Just kidding, though. Nicole. What? Seeing Nicole's innocent smile, I couldn't stop my tears and started sobbing. Sensing something, Nicole invited me, come to my place for now. So, what happened? You don't have to say if you don't want to. Nicole had always been this way. She seemed tough and brusque. But she cared about me more than anyone and knew how to read the situation. I loved Nicole for that. I was really happy when she celebrated my marriage. Thinking about that, I started crying again. You know, I might be overstepping, but is it about your husband? What? Did I hit the mark with that face? Yes, but how did you know? Well, it's just a hunch. But you know, that husband, Ryan, right? He seemed a bit shady from the moment I met him. Is that so? But I didn't say anything because you looked so happy. Thinking it would be tactless to speak up. Maybe I should have told you. No, I probably wouldn't have paid any attention even if you had told me at that time. Yeah, that was highly likely. Thank you, Nicole. For what? I feel a bit better thanks to you. That's good. But, don't you have more you want to talk about? Yeah. For now, just stay over tonight. It looks like you ran out of your house without a place to stay, right? Thank you, Nicole. Nicole's kindness brought tears to my eyes again. She teased me about crying too much, but even that made me happy. And I ended up crying even more. Eventually, I cried myself out while she rubbed my back. While staying at Nicole's place, I searched for what I really wanted to do. Of course, while continuing to work part-time. I tried to pay the rent from my modest salary. But she wouldn't accept it until I earned a bit more. I thought hard about what I wanted to do, what I really enjoyed. Once I figured out my feelings, I planned to tell my parents about the divorce. By the way, Nicole. Yeah? Didn't you have a boyfriend? Is it okay for me to stay here? Oh, that's fine. We got divorced. What, you were married? Why didn't you tell me? I would have brought a gift. It was more like we just got married because it felt right at the moment. And it wasn't really a celebratory mood. That's so. And, as expected, we got divorced. It was good that I didn't bother mentioning it. That was why I thought maybe you had some worries. When I saw how down you were, Sarah. I see. But honestly, the divorce isn't finalized yet. He's not agreeing to it. I'm actually in the middle of trying to get it officially done. Is that like, you're in court? Kind of. He's demanding alimony, but I don't think I need to pay. I think so too. But he just won't accept it. So it's dragging on. Couldn't a lawyer settle this quickly? I thought so too, but his lawyer is quite skilled. Every time we go to court and it looks like we might lose, my lawyer quit at once. That's terrible. Well, never mind my story. Just relax. Okay. Learning about Nicole's situation, I started studying law in between my part-time jobs. Initially, I wanted to understand what she was going through. As I studied, I surprisingly found myself enjoying learning about law. The more I learned, the more engrossed I became, devouring books on law. I never imagined that this would significantly change my life. After a few years, I quit my part-time job. and Nicole was still in divorce mediation with her husband. However, our circumstances had drastically changed. Nicole and I were in front of the courthouse. Today was Nicole's 5th divorce mediation session. We entered the courthouse in suits, and the lawyer we had hired was already there. "Hello, I'm Nicole." "Hello, I'm honored to take your case." "My name is Ryan." "Huh?" There stood my ex-husband, Ryan. I wasn't surprised, but Ryan seemed shocked to see me. "Wait, what? Why are you here?" "I'm here because I'm Nicole's friend." "I came because I was worried." "You're accompanying a friend?" "That's funny." Ryan made a disdainful remark. Nicole looked upset, but I assured her with my eyes. I wouldn't expect a high school graduate to be here in court. It's so out of place. "Oh, you might get sued." "Let's not talk about that. Please focus on representing me today." All right. "But you'll owe me a lot if we win. After all, it seems many lawyers have given up on this case." Ryan laughed crudely and entered the courtroom. We followed. Let's start by having everyone introduce themselves. I've already said this many times, but I'm Nicole's husband, Jason. And I'm his wife, Nicole. Let's review the reasons and circumstances for the divorce. Jason, could you start? Yes. Thus, the solemn divorce mediation began. The proceedings went smoothly. But it was clear that Jason's lawyer was formidable, and we were at a disadvantage. I didn't know before, but it turned out Ryan's lawyer skills weren't so great. He couldn't argue back, and he was sweating profusely. Nicole, who should have been the client, sighed. That concludes our argument. Considering the situation, I think it's fair for Nicole to pay the alimony. Understood. Now, let's hear from Nicole. Well, this is. Excuse me, Your Honor, may I have a word? What? As Ryan wiped his sweat and attempted to speak, Nicole quickly raised her hand. Surprised, Ryan inadvertently dropped his handkerchief to the floor. I apologize for the interruption during the trial, but I would like to change my lawyer. Huh? What? Legally, it is possible to change lawyers during the proceedings. But you will need to appoint a replacement lawyer. Yes, I am aware of that. What are you talking about? I would like to request that Ms. Sarah White, a law student here, take over as my lawyer instead of Mr. Ryan Baker. Huh? What did you say? Sarah is a law student. Wait, you want to appoint Sarah as your lawyer? Your Honor, is that acceptable? If both parties agree, I have no objections. Of course, I have no objections. The opposing lawyer looked at us as if watching something amusing, his gaze dripping with scorn. He must think that a mere law student couldn't possibly win against him. Wait a minute. I didn't hear about this. I am your lawyer. That may have been true, but it doesn't seem like you can win against him. Therefore, I'd rather ask Sarah, my most trusted friend. Do you even realize what you're saying? A law student defending is unusual enough. But to entrust your defense to a dropout like her? Yes, any problems? Of course there's a problem. Your Honor, let's adjourn this trial. Why is that? This woman is a high school graduate with hardly any brains. It's wrong for someone like her to even enter a courtroom. I can't let that stand. What do you mean? As it turns out, she is affiliated with one of the country's top law schools and has achieved the top academic honors there. What? Huh? She is fully capable as a lawyer. Certainly more than someone who judges others by their education. What are you talking about? This woman, top of her class. Now, let's proceed. Mr. Baker, if you have any issues, would you like to be excused from the court? What? Well. Ordered to leave, Ryan protested and caused a scene, which only garnered more disfavor from the judge. Eventually, Ryan couldn't say anything more and left the courtroom saying, "Do whatever you want." In cases where a student represents, a guardian is required. But the judge offered to take on that role. Unbeknownst to others, it was the judge who had recommended me for this position. He had recognized my talent as a law student early on. Although it might sound self-serving, I believe my ability to absorb legal knowledge is exceptional. Although I never liked studying much, I seem to be a different person when it comes to law. Perhaps my motivation to help Nicole also played a role. It was only later that I realized I also had a desire to become a better lawyer than Ryan. So, when Nicole chose me over Ryan and the judge revealed my true identity, I felt incredibly validated. The frustrations I had been holding back cleared up in an instant. When Ryan was leaving the courtroom, he seemed so small. I couldn't believe I had once loved such a man and had been manipulated by him. That made me incredibly angry. But for now, I needed to focus on the present. In the end, Nicole and we won the case. Surprisingly, it turned out that being a lawyer was my true calling. Nicole and I rejoiced, holding hands. This event quickly became news. The story of a law student defeating a skilled lawyer was unprecedented. And ironically, my educational background made it even more sensational. The headline read, "Your aspirations have nothing to do with your education." And I was featured in the media every day. Consequently, Ryan, who had looked down on me, also became news. Portrayed as the lowest of the low among lawyers. With such a label, Ryan was inevitably fired from his law firm. After such reports, reemployment might be difficult for him. One day, Ryan contacted me. "Sarah, I was wrong. I apologize. So, can you explain to the media? What I said about you was a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding? What's misunderstood? Isn't it all true? Don't say that. Look, if it helps, we can get back together, right? I'm astonished. You really live in a fantasy world. What? Goodbye. I don't want to see or talk to you anymore. Wait, Sarah. I forcefully ended the call. It's been months since I last contacted him. And I don't know what he's up to now, but he's probably not leading a decent life. Nicole and I now live together in a sort of roommate situation. Free of the burdens we once carried, enjoying life more than ever. Whether we'll ever marry again, I don't know. But at least for now, the freedom we have is priceless to us.